So this is a video I have been debating on making for quite some time now. Basically, from the release date of this film up until now, there has been unrelenting hate swirling around this movie. The Star Wars fan base has been quite vocal about their opinions and hatred towards this movie, saying absolutely ridiculous things like,
"The Last Jedi is an abomination. It's an insult to everything Star Wars is and was."
I don't know how you make a movie as bad as The Last Jedi. It takes one of the most beloved franchises of all time, throws it in the trunk of a car, and then backs it into a river.
The Last Jedi ruined Star Wars.
I'm sorry to break this to you, but you're wrong.
It's only a movie. And if you think you're going to go into the movie and recapture your childhood, you're setting yourself up for disappointment.
And of course, you can feel whatever way you want to feel about a movie. If you like it, then you like it. If you don't like it, then you don't like it. But if you say this movie is bad, like objectively bad, then you are wrong. And I'm not saying that I love this movie, because I don't. In fact, I would rank it probably somewhere in the middle as far as Star Wars films go. But there are things you can measure objectively about a film, and barely any of them are embarrassing failures like everyone pretends that they are. Now, before I really get into it, I'm going to preface this by, obviously, the title of this video states that most of this video is going to be about the good things Star Wars: The Last Jedi has to offer. But again, I'm not saying that I love this movie or that it's particularly great, because there are plenty of things in this movie that I agree with the masses about. I think the Poe Dameron and Laura Dern subplot is really bad. I think the casino subplot is pretty bad. I think that the addition of Rose's character is completely useless and unneeded. And I think that the milking scene is really stupid. And the list goes on. But this is where I part ways with virtually everyone else on the planet about this film, because I think that the good that this movie has outweighs the bad. So, without further ado, here are my reasons why The Last Jedi is actually good. Number 1, Rey. The character of Rey I've heard a lot about on the web zone, and a lot of people say that she goes nowhere and learns nothing, and that she is a Mary Sue.
That she's a Mary Sue, that Rey is a Mary Sue flat out.
And this is not really true. Rey is my favorite part of this movie, and not only because she is only one of 3 characters in the movie that is legitimately interesting, but she does learn, and she does grow, and the movie actually explores something that The Force Awakens doesn't, and that's Rey's character flaw. At the end of Force Awakens, Rey goes to the private island of the first Jedi Temple that Luke is hiding out on. And at the end of Force Awakens, she goes there, and as an audience member, you're led to believe that she's going there to train and learn the Jedi arts from Luke. But immediately, things are thrown on their head in The Last Jedi. And many things are thrown on their heads in The Last Jedi, some of which work, some of which don't, but we'll get into that more later. But this is one that I think really does work, especially for Rey's character. It seems as if everyone wanted Rey to go and learn from Luke as Luke did from Yoda in Empire, but that would be so boring and pointless. Instead, Rey goes to the island not looking to be taught, or not looking really to learn.
I'm from the Resistance. Your sister Leia sent me. We need your help.
As we learn in The Last Jedi, she goes to the island to meet Luke, not to be taught, or not really to learn, but to take Luke with her back to the Resistance so that he can help fight, because she believes that he is a missing link that they need to win against this evil First Order. And this highlights her character flaw, is that she is strong, she's independent, but she is stubborn to a fault. So much so that she believes that her way is the right way, and that she cannot really do any wrong. And this is explored in The Last Jedi because she's constantly wrong, and constantly getting herself in deeper than she probably needs to. So she goes to the island where Luke is, fully expecting him to want to go with her and want to help her, and he doesn't. He very much doesn't. So much so that he, in fact, tries to teach her about how she shouldn't be a Jedi, and that she should just abandon her cause. Which makes her trip to this island ultimately pointless from a plot standpoint, but we learn a lot about her through the decisions she makes here. And from the island, she goes to Kylo fully expecting him to change for her, but he also doesn't.
I want you to join me. We can rule together and bring a new order to the galaxy.
Don't do this, Ben. Please don't go this way.
Which is just another character flaw that Rey has. She constantly puts her faith in people that don't care about her or aren't there for her. Luke, Kylo, and her parents. And this idea is explored more and more as the movie goes on, but it's fully realized in this scene under the island, when she goes to this mirror type thing, and she puts her hand on it, and she says, "Show me my parents." And two figures walk up, and then become one, and then it reveals that it's just her all along. And this is to imply that she is putting too much faith in people. She's putting too much faith in people that aren't there for her, and that she needs to become her. She needs to realize her full potential. And while this arc isn't fully completed yet, it doesn't have to be, because it leaves plenty open for the next movie to finish, so that she can fully realize herself. She now knows that there are parts of her that she needs to work on, and can do that in the next film. And I'm not saying that she's the most fleshed out character of all time, because she's not, but she is a character. She is a character with strengths and weaknesses that the movie puts forward and explores in interesting ways.
I need someone to show me my place in all this.
Number 2, Rey and Kylo Ren's relationship. Sure, it's a bit corny and awkward how these scenes are handled.
You and I.
Murderous snake!
But it lets us explore their relationship in a much more intimate way that we haven't quite seen yet. Through these scenes, we see Kylo exploiting Rey's desire to trust somebody. And subsequently, we see Rey second-guessing herself for the first time.
I thought I'd find answers here. I was wrong. I'd never felt so alone.
You're not alone.
And this is due to the fact that Kylo Ren and Luke Skywalker tell her two different sides of the same story. Hearing both sides of the story confuses her, and it throws her into a bit of an existential crisis where she doesn't know who to believe. Does she believe Kylo Ren, somebody who she desperately wants to connect with, or does she believe Luke, who is a good guy that she also desperately wants to connect with? And it throws her into this internal conflict that puts her whole ideology up in the air. And we see Kylo Ren as a more intimate character here. He isn't the insane, crazy, megalomaniacal maniac that he seems to be to Rey. In all their conversations, he's very calm, he's very collected, and he seems to be analyzing everything around him. He seems to want to understand how they're being connected.
I know everything I need to know about you.
You do? You do.
And then from there, he starts to manipulate Rey into what she wants him to be. He pretends to be what she wants him to be, to lure her in. He's not the villain that Rey has come to expect, or we as the audience have come to expect. He's cunning, he's manipulative, and he's pretty conflicted. He doesn't know where he stands, on what side. He doesn't know who he completely trusts yet, and he gets to know Rey through this process of connecting brains or whatever they're doing. And as seen later, he's nearly impossible to read.
Yes, I see him turning the lightsaber to strike true. And now, foolish child, he ignites it and kills his true enemy.
In the end, the two are permanently divided because of this. Number 3 is Luke Skywalker. And I know there's a lot of controversy around Luke, whether it's because he said that he didn't agree with the direction that they are taking for Luke in an interview, or because many fans don't agree with his morally great character now.
When I read 7, I said, I love everybody's part except mine. And on this one, it was similar in the sense that I said to Ryan, I'm so surprised how you see Luke.
He was once the pinnacle of good, but now he isn't really good or bad anymore. He actively chooses to sort of be in the middle. And I think a lot of people were upset about this because he was such a godlike character. But what the film explores feels very human and relatable to me. He was once this incredible figure, a legend, he calls himself. And in his pride, he took on more than he can handle. He took on more responsibility than he could handle.
And I became a legend. For many years there was balance. And then I saw Ben, my nephew, with that mighty Skywalker blood. And in my hubris, I thought I could train him. I could pass on my strengths.
And ultimately, as we learn, this blew up spectacularly in his face. And in shame, he secluded himself on an island, never to return, never to be seen again, and just to die, because he was so ashamed of himself for this moment or moments of weakness and pride. The idea that the greatest Jedi to ever live can fall because of his own ego is incredibly harrowing. And this is amplified because this is a character that we've watched learn and grow and become the greatest Jedi ever. And the idea that the purest character of the 3 original movies can fall from grace is incredibly relatable and human. And it's a great angle that Rian Johnson took Luke. And in the end, even this Jedi Master learns and grows. He realizes that turning a blind eye to all the conflict in the world wasn't right, and he makes a sacrifice to keep the flame of good ablaze. Number 4, nihilism and Benicio del Toro. Now, Benicio del Toro's character is probably the best thing that came out of the Rose-Finn subplot. I mean, his performance and his character are fairly simple, but the ideas that his character brings with him are far more interesting than I've come to expect from Star Wars. Most of the time, Star Wars is just simply good versus evil, light versus dark, but Benicio del Toro's character brings in this grayness and nihilism to the mix that helps reinforce what Rian Johnson's going for with Luke's character. He helps Finn and Rose for a price, and then he helps the First Order for a price. He sells them out for a bunch of money because he believes that good and bad aren't really things. You never thought you'd see nihilism in a Star Wars movie, did you? Even Kylo Ren's character has hints of this idea embedded in him here.
Snoke, Skywalker, the Sith, the Jedi, the Rebels, let it all die. Rey.
Even though it seems like it was just a scheme to manipulate Rey, this idea that good and evil are linked indefinitely is something incredibly compelling and something that the movie leaves you to dwell on after it's done. Number 5, Supreme Leader Snoke and Rey's parents. Killing off the Supreme Leader Snoke was one of the best ideas that Rian Johnson had for this movie. Not only was it completely unexpected, but it was a much needed switch up in the Star Wars formula that I think very few people saw coming. I mean, Supreme Leader Snoke was basically just J.J. Abrams' ripoff of Chancellor Palpatine or Emperor Palpatine. It's a shadowy figure that's pulling strings from behind the scenes and has his minions go out and do all the heavy lifting for him. I mean, this is literally a character we've seen before, but now he's even less of a character. Emperor Snoke is basically just a bad guy that does bad things. We don't know anything about him, we don't know what he can do, and we don't even know where he really comes from. So who cares about him? And I mean, J.J. Abrams sets him up to be the next big bad guy in the Star Wars universe, but it always should have been Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren is far more interesting than Emperor Snoke ever was. And now that Rian Johnson has essentially forced Kylo Ren to be the big villain for the next movie, I think that's great. He essentially pulled out a non-factor from a overly complicated formula and then plugged in a much more compelling factor more prominently into this mix. And the idea that Rey's parents are essentially nobodies was a genius play by Rian Johnson here. And I know what you're thinking, but why can she do all these cool things if she is from nobody? Isn't it so much better if she had special parents, special bloodline? Wouldn't that make more sense? No, I think it is far more compelling of a character to be from nowhere and then be special anyway. Like, think about this for a second. Do we need another character that is built up to be something super special? They have tons of midi-chlorians, or they're from a specific bloodline to where they're destined to be good. Or is it more interesting to have someone come from nowhere but be an anomaly anyway?
Do you want to know the truth about your parents? Or have you always known? And you just hidden it away? You know the truth. Say it. Say it.
They were nobody.
They were filthy junk traders who sold you off for drinking money. The dead in a pauper's grave in the Jakku Desert. You have no place in this story. You come from nothing. You're nothing.
And doesn't it make Rey being a Mary Sue more excusable? Because she is such an anomaly that she may be able to achieve more special things because she did come from nowhere. And then she became such a powerful Jedi. I don't know what J.J. Abrams is going to do with Episode 9, but if he sticks with the idea that she truly is from nowhere, then that kind of makes her character more special, at least for me. Number 6, the obvious stuff. Now, of course, this is a Disney movie, so it looks and sounds fantastic. The visual effects are amazing, the sound design is top-notch, all of the performances are excellent, all of the technical stuff is wonderful, and it's all highlighted by Rian Johnson's excellent cinematography. There's so much movement and energy to the cinematography here that makes scenes more vibrant than they may have been if they were shot by, I don't know, George Lucas. Even when compared to the other Disney Star Wars films, this one stands out in the visual department. And of course, John Williams is back and he brings his A-game, as does everyone. Even Rian Johnson, who everyone seems to blame for ruining Star Wars.
Rian Johnson has just destroyed this sequel trilogy.
Even though Star Wars was ruined 2 decades ago when George Lucas decided to sit around and do nothing for 3 movies. Even though Rian Johnson wrote an incredibly inconsistent script with tons of issues, there are actually great ideas and characters here, and that's something that prequels simply can't say. The technical wonderment alone is enough to push this movie well beyond all 3 of the prequels. I mean, Rian actually put care and work into this movie, and even if you look into this a tiny bit, then you can see that. Rian actually directs.
And look back to him. And that little annoyed look to her, Mark. Great, I got it.
George Lucas sat in a chair.
I take it you say action, after we roll camera?
I'll say action.
You don't.
Sometimes I forget.
People forget.
If I forget to say action or cut, just step in and say action and cut.
Ryan had a vision for his film. George had ideas that even he knew got out of hand.
It's a little disjointed.
Seems like a lot of short scenes.
It's bold in terms of jerking people around, but I may have gone too far in a few places.
So how about we just back off the hate of Rian Johnson just a little bit, and remember that all these movies were, when they were in the hands of George Lucas, were expensive toy commercials.
They are good. They are evil. They are alien. They are wise. And they are available. At Toys R Us, you can find the complete collection from Star Wars Episode 1. It's a selection of epic proportions, and they are waiting. Toys R Us.